Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I beg to rise to reply. And maybe just picking up from what the Honorable Meli was saying, that it is indeed true that even at the time of the local government authorities, there are indeed issues with transfer of assets and liabilities. And this bill does indeed address the concerns that the Honorable Meli has mentioned. If you read Article 186E, it deals with the management of assets and liabilities between the two levels of government, including the list of assets and liabilities that would be accompanying a transfer agreement, and says a transfer agreement between the two levels of government shall, in addition to the requirements under Section 26 of the Intergovernmental Relations Act, include a provision on acquisition, disposal, and transfer of assets and liabilities. And even goes further to say that during the process of transfer of assets and liabilities, at the time of expiry of the transfer period, it shall be done in accordance with the transfer agreement, and therefore caters for the concerns that Honorable Meli has raised. And I want to also agree with Honorable Robert Mbui. Indeed, it is true. The impeached governor of Nairobi once told us that he signed a document he didn't know what he was signing. And therefore, that is why it's important to have this kind of law. But I don't know whether it's really something to do with the lack of a law at that time, or it's something that goes with those who get impeached. Because I've also heard another one now saying, who was impeached, that he did not know anything to do with Adani, but he then goes to church and says that I had actually told the president this Adani is not good. But when he was in office, he told us that he did not know anything about Adani. He could not comment about Adani because it was under his purview. So it is probably some sickness with impeached people or something you get infected with upon impeachment. But with that, Honorable Speaker, allow me to reply and say this law is a very important piece of legislation because it will ensure that any transfer of functions between the two levels of government is superintended in a very good way, and resources, as we said, follow functions. And when that function is going back to the level of government that may have designated to the other level of government, if there are any assets and liabilities that went with it, then there is a process that is provided for within the transfer agreement. With that, I beg to reply.
A question to this particular bill will be put in future for the convenience of the House. Next order.
Order number 13, the Public Finance Management Amendment No. 4 Bill, National Assembly Bill No. 45 of 2024, second reading.
Mover. We approach the Speaker first. Mover, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to move that the Public Finance Management Amendment number 4 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 45 of 2024 be now read a second time. Honorable Speaker, this bill again is a very short bill, again amending the Public Finance Management Act around the issues of our debt management. And Honorable Speaker, you remember we did amend the Public Finance Management Act, I think about 2 years ago, setting the thresholds for our public debt. Honorable Speaker, this bill seeks to strengthen our public finance management framework by addressing a number of critical issues. One, on compliance; two, on accounting and governance. And on accounting and governance, Honorable Speaker, the bill in clause 3 provides for the amendment of Section 194 of the Act to provide for a framework for implementation of the accrual accounting in government and risk management by the Public Sector Accounting Standards Board. And Honorable Speaker, this is meant to improve the accounting standards for better transparency in government. Honorable Speaker, you know we have been under the cash-based accounting system, and to create that legal framework for moving to an accrual-based system, we need then to have the framework which we are creating now in this bill under clause number 3. Honorable Speaker, Clause 2 of the bill outlines the effective dates for complying. As I said, it talks about compliance, accounting, and governance. I've spoken about accounting. And on compliance, Honorable Speaker, Clause 2 gives us a debt threshold that I had alluded to, that we did amend in the Public Finance Management Act, requiring that we amend Section 50 of the Public Finance Management Act. And if you look at the bill, Clause 2A6, to delete subsection 2C of the Principal Act that I'm referring to, that we amended some time earlier. And maybe for the benefit of members, Honorable Speaker, 2C provided for that the provisions of 2A, that the borrowing of the national government referred to in subsection 2 shall not exceed 55% of our gross domestic product in net present terms. And notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 2A, the national government may, in exceptional circumstances, exceed this threshold set under this subsection by not more than 5%, and shall come into force on the date that is 5 years from the date of the commencement of this act. Honorable Speaker, when we did this debt threshold, we set our public debt threshold at 55% of our GDP in net present terms. Plus or minus 5, and basically it's plus 5 because minus, you are still within the 55 threshold. And therefore, it says under exceptional circumstances, then your debt to GDP ratios could rise from 55 and maybe to about 60%. But at the time we enacted this debt anchor threshold, Honorable Speaker, we had already burst that debt threshold. And therefore, we needed a transition period under which the national government or the national treasury is obligated to ensure that we sustain our debt levels within that debt anchor ratio of 55 and to a maximum of 60% under very exceptional circumstances. And that is what we are seeking to do in seeking to comply with this particular provision, to ensure that we then set a period that will not exceed 5 years. That from the time this act came into being, which I think was last year but one, within a period of 5 years, by the end of 2027, then the National Treasury must ensure that our national debt levels cannot and may not go beyond that 55%. And therefore, it's important that we do amend this provision, because if you left it like that, Honorable Speaker, it's possible you find yourselves in the year 2037 or 2042, when Robert Mbui wants to run for president. He will now come and tell us, 2032. Sorry, I thought he wanted to run in 2042. He says it's 2032, which is very encouraging, because that tells me his party leader will not be president by then for Robert Mbui to be running for president. Honorable Speaker, I was saying that on a light note because I know it is possible if we don't put that ceiling in terms of timelines, then it is possible that bureaucrats in government may push that debt ceiling and it remains above 55% all the way to 2032, 2042, 2050. And generations that will come after us will be saying that we are still within the debt ceiling, because there was no timeline that was set. And that's why we are saying to have compliance, or rather to enforce compliance, we force the National Treasury to make sure that within this period of 5 years, they do move that compliance level to the levels that were set out in the bill. Honorable Speaker, as I said, it's a very short bill, only 3 clauses, and therefore I have nothing more important to add. And I beg to move and request the chair of the Finance Committee, the Honorable Kimani Kuria, the one and only member for Molo, to second.
The member for Molo.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this Public Finance Management Bill number 4 be now read a second time. Again, this is one of the... Honorable Speaker, I beg to move to second, Honorable Speaker. And before I do so, this is again one of the bills that was referred to the Departmental Committee on Finance.